And there we are, the kind of carriage that we've come to expect. And the carriage procession will make its way out of New Palace Yard into Parliament Square and then along Whitehall in a scene that lots of people who've been queuing all day will be delighted to see. Blues and Royals and the lifeguards smartly turned out waiting for the Queen to emerge, and then they will escort the royal carriages back along Whitehall and over to Buckingham Palace. Great sight in Westminster Hall, and the fanfare signals that the Queen is about to depart. And one of the great sights of these days, and these traditional ceremonies that we have, mounted bands of the Household Cavalry. And they are well on the way down the Mall, because they're making their way towards Buckingham Palace right now and entertaining the crowds as they go, but really fulfilling an important function with the drum horses there, great favourites among the crowd. The function being to announce that the sovereign will soon be on her way.
Yeah, we see all the family in together, and Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, she travelled with her daughter and daughter-in-law, and there are many echoes, I think, of that moment here today as we see this.
And we're still enjoying dry weather as the trumpeters of the Household Cavalry signal that the Queen is on her way and that the Sovereign's escort too is ready. So the first and second divisions of the Sovereign's escort leading the way. Queen's carriage passing the Cenotaph along Whitehall. There we have a real sense of the procession itself, and there we can see the blocks of the Sovereign's escort, if you like, the great divisions, the first, second, third and fourth divisions of the Sovereign's escort. And on Horse Guards Parade, King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery, with their special Diamond Jubilee salute.
And the route is somewhat longer than traditional for these things, because we are going round into Trafalgar Square, a place full of Commonwealth resonances with South Africa House and Canada House, and shortly we'll actually see the Queen going past the headquarters of the Commonwealth at Marlborough House. Commonwealth's been a very major part of this Jubilee. This has been a big event, not just here in Britain, but in all these 16 realms around the world which have the Queen as their head of state, from Canada and Australia to tiny Jubilee. 54 nations of the Commonwealth, in fact, at Marlborough House.
What a great view. Admiralty Arch. There you can see the grand gateway to the Mall, as redesigned 100 years ago. crowds around Admiralty Arch. This was it, the vision, really, of Edward VII. But he didn't live to see its completion. It was George V who presided over the opening of this new imperial avenue, and all of it laid out as a memorial to Queen Victoria.
Queen, of course, is about to go past the memorial, the statue, in fact, of her dear late father, and the memorial that she recently unveiled to the Queen Mother, which will be coming up on her right. Always a poignant moment, but this is a very happy day. Lots of happy memories of all these landmarks that she's about to go past.
Down past Clarence House and towards Lancaster House. The red plumes of the Blues and Royals, in their dark navy tunics. And the lifeguards in their dazzling scarlet tunics, 3rd and 4th divisions of the Sovereign's escort.
It's amazing to think that in 1897 there were 50,000 troops on the streets for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. Today there's about 160, the household cavalry, and just over 1,000 members of the other armed forces. But it's still a great spectacle. It's not all about imperial clout today. It's about spectacle. But that is one of the great sights. Just look at that there.
John Nelson and Mark Hargreaves. John Nelson riding wheel postilion on the Queen's coach. The head coachman, Mark Hargreaves, today. Both of them very experienced, and they'll be working again for the Queen's birthday parade in a few weeks' time.
I think the crowds are larger here than they were for the royal wedding. 20 deep, 30 deep in places.
Royal Standard, your sense of its size and how impressive that is.
Well, they have standards in various different sizes, but you can rest assured today they really pulled out the best one in the draw. That is the special state ceremonial standard there.
And that's the view from within St James's Park, so you're right, that gives you a sense of the depth of the crowd.
It's worth remembering it was the scenes on the last day of the Golden Jubilee which formed the backbone of the bid video that London took to when it was bidding for the Olympics, which we're about to have shortly. It was the scenes of the Golden Jubilee. It was when Lord Coe and his team said to the International Olympic Committee, look how we put on a party. It was scenes just like this. And that's really what helped win London the Olympics. And I think there'll be many resonances of that. We're going to see that all over again shortly. When they open up those roads, the crowds come pouring down. We are in for some of the great sights, I think, of 2012 in the next hours. He hit just the right note, I think. There was due formality, Your Majesty, and then mummy. A very genial dig at some of the comedians who'd been having a very genial pop at the royal family early on. And I think one of the most touching moments is often the unscripted things that we remember from these great occasions. But as he expressed his good wishes for the Duke of Edinburgh, and suddenly you heard the crowd chanting, Philip, 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 this roar going up. I've never heard anyone chanting like that before. And this morning, as the Queen arrived at St Paul's again, I was on the inside. You could hear ringing around this chant of God Save the Queen. It was like something from another age. You don't get that sort of chanting at royal events. But these last few days have definitely triggered something. And it doesn't really matter as the perceived setbacks, whether it's the weather, whether it's the Duke's illness. They've all, in a sense, helped to just magnify and elevate the affection for the Queen even more. I think we have a sense of she will just carry on regardless, whatever adversity throws at her. And here as she heads for home, just look at that. Look at the smile on her face. She's in the home straight now, as she might say, and she's loving it.
Stands are still here, thousands of people sitting in them, so it's tailor-made really for the grand finale, isn't it?
It's a brilliant set, that. I worked out, I think it's 6 Royal Festival halls all on one site. It's an enormous logistical operation there, and it's great. It does allow lots more people to see it than normally would.
This is where we get a bird's eye view from the studio window as well, Robert. Just behind us.
Big on it.
Yeah, you get a real sense of the colour, the sweep. You just saw the sovereign standard there of the lifeguards, carried by Warrant Officer 1 Warren Brown, Regimental Corporal Major, and they're into the forecourt.
A very nice shot there of some of the coachmen wearing what they call the state liveries, some of which actually go back to Queen Victoria's reign, and some are so precious that they have to actually find a coachman that will fit the uniform rather than the other way around. Coming up to the state entrance.
And there you see the contrast. This is the soft yellow bath stone.
That's right.
Of the old palace, as opposed to the hard white stone at the front. It's quite a contrast.
It is, and there's a contrast on the inside because one half of it's just been cleaned, and that side is yet to get its overhaul.
So this is where the Queen and the other members of the royal family will settle down inside the palace for a while before they then appear on the balcony, and that will be one of the iconic moments of this Jubilee.
I think it absolutely will. We'll not only have the Battle of Britain flight and the Red Arrows, but we're going to have the Irish Guards down below attempting a great feat of arms, a feu de joie, a ripple of gunfire, which is actually a very difficult thing to do. It was a technique which was pinched off Napoleonic troops in the 19th century and was perfected for the Queen's 80th birthday, and she loved it then. I think that's one of the reasons they've decided to do it again today. And there, of course, is the Colonel of the Irish Guards, the Duke of Cambridge. He wore their uniform on his wedding day.
Now that is the presentation of a posy by coachman Philippa Jackson, who would have been in the third carriage had there been a third carriage today, but Philippa presenting a posy there, part of a tradition, normally a posy which is left in the carriage for the Queen on certain events, but being presented here today because of the Diamond Jubilee.